Welcome to the Rugby Obsession Podcast. Now, if you're as obsessed with rugby as we are, make sure you hit that subscribe button. You won't want to miss out on any of our deep dives into the biggest stories. Today, we're heading down to New Zealand for some really interesting news.
Yeah, some exciting stuff.
You sent over this Planet Rugby article about one of their star players, Damian McKenzie, and it sounds like he's made a big decision. So we're going to try to dig a little deeper here, beyond just like the headlines.
Absolutely.
And see why this is such a big deal for McKenzie, for New Zealand rugby, and maybe we can even uncover some angles that, haven't really been talked about that much.
Yeah, I think there's a few things to really dig into here.
Mm-hmm.
I think what's interesting to start with is, the All Blacks playmaker Damian McKenzie has re-signed with New Zealand Rugby and the Chiefs.
Okay.
And this is a long-term deal that was confirmed just the other day on March 30th, 2025.
All right, so long term, in the world of rugby, that always gets people talking.
Right.
But what is it about this specific deal that makes it a big deal beyond just the length of it?
Well, the contract goes all the way through to 2029.
Mm-hmm.
So if we think about the rugby calendar that takes him through the next Rugby World Cup in 2027.
Wow.
But crucially, it also includes the British and Irish Lions tour of New Zealand. So, when you think about a commitment that big, spanning those two huge international events, it really speaks volumes about how important he is, not only to the national side, but also to his Super Rugby team, the Chiefs.
It's a statement.
Yeah, it really is a cornerstone signing for them.
And this pretty much shuts down any rumors about him maybe going overseas, doesn't it? Because the article even mentions there was some interest from other clubs.
You're absolutely right. The Planet Rugby piece talked about high levels of interest from overseas clubs, and you can understand why.
Yeah.
McKenzie is 29, arguably at the peak of his powers. So for him to choose to stay in New Zealand, it's a huge show of loyalty and dedication, turning down what could have been very lucrative offers from elsewhere.
So I'm curious what McKenzie himself had to say about all this. Like, what were his main reasons for re-signing?
Well, the article quotes him as being incredibly excited to be staying in New Zealand. He feels like he still has so much to give to New Zealand rugby, and, he's really focused on achieving things on home soil. Specifically, he talks about wanting to win a championship with the Chiefs and, of course, playing a big part in the All Blacks Rugby World Cup campaign in 2027 and beyond. So it feels like he's really driven by this ambition to build on that legacy at home.
It's always interesting to hear what the coaches and the, higher-ups have to say about these kind of decisions as well. What did you pick up from their reactions?
Oh, they were full of praise for him. All Blacks head coach Scott Robertson talked about McKenzie's incredible skill set and his ability to just change a game in an instant. He called him a critical signing for their future plans. And then you have Mark Robinson, the NZR CEO. He described McKenzie as a rare talent and someone who has already made a big contribution over the last decade. He really emphasized McKenzie's dedication and loyalty. So you can see from the top down, they really value what he brings to the table.
What about from the Chiefs' perspective? He's been there for a huge chunk of his career. What was their reaction?
Chiefs head coach Clayton McMillan, he said it was a significant outcome for the club, especially given all that interest from overseas. He was really praising McKenzie's influence on the field, calling him one of the elite players to ever wear the Chiefs jersey. And I thought it was really interesting that McMillan also highlighted McKenzie's work in the community. It shows that his impact goes way beyond what he does on the field.
Absolutely. For anyone who might be newer to rugby or just needs a quick refresher, can you give us a rundown of McKenzie's career highlights so far?
Sure. So he made his All Blacks debut back in 2016, and he's already earned 61 test caps. In fact, in 2024, he played in all 14 tests and started 10 of them. That's an incredible consistency. And he's also represented the Maori All Blacks between 2015 and 2017, which, shows his connection to his heritage.
And, his time with the Chiefs, he's been such a crucial part of that team.
No doubt about it. He's in his 11th season with them now. Can you believe that?
Wow.
He made his debut way back in 2015, and he actually holds the record for the Chiefs' all-time leading point scorer. He's racked up over 1,200 points for the franchise.
That's impressive.
And to top it off, he's made 131 appearances for the Chiefs, which puts him up there as one of their most capped players, alongside legends like Sam Cane and Liam Messam. That kind of longevity and consistency, it really says something.
Yeah, for sure. Now, the article also mentioned his time playing in Japan. Where does that fit into his overall career path?
Oh, yeah, that's right. He spent some time with Suntory Sungoliath in Japan back in 2022. It's like a sabbatical year.
Mm-hmm.
And these kind of short-term moves, they can be really beneficial for players. They get to experience a different style of rugby, and maybe explore some different financial opportunities while still keeping their ties to their New Zealand contracts.
Yeah.
And the article hinted that McKenzie might consider doing something similar again in the future. So it could be part of his strategy to, manage his career and make sure he's playing at a high level for as long as possible.
It's interesting. So when we step back and look at the bigger picture, what does McKenzie staying in New Zealand mean for the fans and for the sport as a whole?
It's a massive boost for New Zealand rugby. Keeping a player of his caliber, someone who can turn a game on its head, it just injects a sense of optimism and excitement into the future, especially with those massive international tournaments coming up. And for the fans, it's like a reassurance that one of their favorite players is committed to representing their country and their Super Rugby team. It's going to be so exciting to see how his presence shapes the Chiefs' Super Rugby campaigns and the All Blacks' performances on the world stage. And you know what? We want to hear from you guys too. What are your thoughts on this news? Head over to the comments section and let us know your opinions. And if you're loving this deep dive into all things rugby, don't forget to subscribe to the Rugby Obsession podcast so you don't miss any of our future discussions.
It definitely sounds like a win-win for New Zealand rugby. They've secured a world-class player, and he's clearly committed to achieving great things with them. I'm sure the coaches and everyone involved are thrilled with this decision.
Totally. It just shows his dedication to New Zealand rugby and his belief in what they can accomplish together. His experience and skill set will be invaluable in the coming years.
All right, that was an awesome deep dive into Damian McKenzie's decision to stick with New Zealand rugby. Hopefully that gave everyone a better understanding of why this is such significant news. And as always, remember to subscribe to the Rugby Obsession podcast for even more in-depth analyses and all the latest updates from the world of rugby.
Don't miss out.
Thanks for tuning in to the Rugby Obsession podcast. We'll be back with another episode soon.
Can't wait.
See you then.